Miami at Florida State. This is the big one of the weekend, the highlight, if you will, for a lot of people. And Florida State is trying to bounce back after a tough loss. Miami is 4-0 and has played really well. Florida State, up until last week, was looking really good. 3-1 on the season, and this is still very much a dangerous team. And playing this one at home will challenge Miami. And maybe you can make an argument that Florida State was looking ahead and past Virginia. I don't necessarily like that argument, that there could be an argument for that. That being said, they are not going to worry about what happened last week. Obviously, they didn't like the loss, but they're going to try to find ways to move on and move forward. Thomas Castellanos has to play better, plain and simple. I think that he at times looked kind of confused and made some poor decisions in the passing attack. Now, he still looked pretty good as a runner. There weren't really any concerns with that. And this rushing attack overall was fairly solid. I'd like to see Usman Chroma get more involved in this rushing attack. I'd really like to see him get more touches. To me, the fact that he's third on the team in touches or at least for rushes, tells me that I need to see more. And we kind of saw him a little bit more last week. Gavin Sawchuk and Chroma were kind of the two ball carriers. I really like what they're doing with Kai Danzi. I think that they have a lot of different weapons that are going to give Miami a lot of trouble. And this is going to be fun for Florida State's offensive line. You are facing one of the best defensive lines, well, really for both lines of scrimmage for both teams. Miami arguably has the best combination of offensive line and defensive line. To me, they have the best. And I think to a lot of other people. That is going to challenge them and really dictate if Florida State has a chance in this one. If they're not able to win a line of scrimmage, if they're not able to handle the trenches, then it's going to be a long day. And for a team that likes to run the football as much as Florida State, that can make things very difficult if you can't run the ball. You're going to make Tommy Castellanos be a pocket passer, which he is not. You're going to have to find unique ways to get him the football and get the running backs involved. And if there's anybody that can do that, it's Mike Norvell and Gus Malzahn. But doing that against this Miami team is their most difficult challenge yet. Doing against Alabama, after what we've seen so far, not really, I want to say not difficult, but it's definitely not going to be nearly as easy this week against Miami. Now, how do you get Deuce Robinson more involved? So far, he has easily been their best receiver, and he is honestly the only real consistent threat. Now, again, Danzy is utilized quite a bit. He's averaging 24 yards per catch, but only has 7 catches. Robinson's the only other wide receiver that has over 100 yards. So how do you get other guys involved? Or how do you force feed Deuce Robinson against this Miami secondary? I think that this secondary has definitely some weaknesses in it that you could potentially exploit. The problem is Castellanos going to have time to throw? That's probably the biggest question you have for this game. Now, if you're Florida State, you also have a defensive line that can make life difficult for Carson Beck and that Miami offense. That's going to be a big key, because if Miami is giving him all kinds of time to throw, especially with how good that offensive line is, this is going to be heavily in Miami's favor. Carson Beck does not need any help being as good as he is, and that's going to be a big key for Florida State if they want to win this game. Miami is a 4.5 point favorite right now, and it's a lot to do with what Carson Beck is doing this year. 972 yards, 7 touchdowns. His favorite target right now, if you have a favorite target, really is Malachi Toney. So far, that freshman has been so fun to watch. He's been disruptive to any secondary that tries to guard him, and so far, nobody really has a solution for him. Now, you do have CJ Daniels and Keelan Marion that are also playing big roles in this offense, but it's truly been Malachi Toney that's been that go-to guy. The other transfer that we're not talking about a lot, which this is a team full of transfers, is Charmer Brown. That's been an underrated addition for Miami. 49 carries for 206 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's second on the team in carries, rushing yards, and rushing touchdowns. They've also gotten him involved in the passing attack. That's a guy who I don't think we're talking about enough, mostly because Mark Fletcher is getting those carries, those RB1 carries, if you will, and Brown comes in as that complementary back. But I think he has been a really nice player for them to get, and he's been a really good fit for this offense. Now, the defense is going to be really fun to watch, and how well they limit Florida State's rushing attack will dictate the outcome of this game. Ruben Bain has been an absolute monster. definitely deserves to be in the Heisman Trophy conversation, but I don't think a lot of people really are paying attention because you don't really watch defensive line. Nobody really does, let's be honest. And people are going to vote for Carson Beck probably more than Ruben Bain, but Ruben Bain has been as disruptive as you can be. I think that Akeem Mesidor deserves a lot of love, and I think that one of the things that Corey Heatherman's been doing is putting them on the same side. They have been lining up in so many different combinations that Florida State probably hasn't seen. And putting Mesidor and Bain on the same side gives you something to worry about because both of them can play on the edge, but both of them can play tackle. They have the size of a tackle, but they have the ability to play on the edge. That gives you a flexibility that not a lot of people have. Not a lot of defense coordinators have guys that can do that. And that's going to be able to give you an advantage that I don't think a lot of people realize they have. And it'll be fun to watch that group. It'll be fun to see what they're capable of doing up front and how disruptive they can be. Because stopping Florida State's rushing attack is the quickest way to get success and win this football game. I think Miami is going to win. It's going to be tough to win on the road, but when you look at what Miami possesses and how they've performed in big games, that's a reason why I go with the Hurricanes here. I think that they're going to be able to win the line of scrimmage on both sides. And after that, there's not a ton that Florida State has that can keep them in this football game, to be completely honest. I think it's still going to be closer. It's not going to be a blowout by any means, but I do think that Miami wins this game.